Thank you. I'm here. This is Dr. Zia.
Sir, I'm just going to cut a short introduction and then we can go with your address.
Thank you. Your voice level was very low. I have presumed that you have given permission to start with. So very warm, good morning from my side. A little bit of throat irritation is there, so possibly my voice may not sound as natural as possible. So you have to, do with the same voice that is coming out of my throat. Well, I will start with my happiness that I'm feeling because of my first interaction with the AU University Islamabad. It gives me a lot of fascination as well as excitement that I'm talking to the people, speaking in postcolonial terms, talking to people in center from the periphery. So this is really something very fascinating for me. Well, as far as I need to share my PPT with you people so that I can show everyone. Can anybody let me know if the PPT is shared? Dr. Munawar, can people see my PPT?
Sir, we can see your presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's have a start with the idea. Why, after all, this theme in the conference is being used? It is probably because of the pandemic situation we have lived, that we are forced to change the modes of teaching in our classrooms. I think it used to be the biggest happiness of almost every professor to go in the classroom and prove himself to be Plato or Aristotle, because the silent audience would greet him. And after that, they would feel surprised on his knowledge and information and the way he would transmit this information. And probably when the professor would go out, 50% of the student won't even understand what has been going on. And as a result, learning of the professor increased and not the learning of the students. A number of researches are conducted, number of things were done in order to let the professors come to the interactive classrooms instead of just remaining like Aristotle. And so changes were coming up, like group discussions and role playing, etc. But we were not ready to change the whole environment of the classroom, especially inside the territories which are less guarded, less watched, and less under the gaze of HEC-like institutions. The teachers won't change their style, and the students also wouldn't like to change the style. But it was the pandemic, COVID-19, which forced us to change our teaching style and to discover new arenas of research and then to put them in order to utilize all sources which are available to us. There were many challenges, of course, internet connectivity, plus the working with the computers or cell phones, or so many other things came. But the online education or platforms of education changed, and we were forced to do that. And as a result, new things have entered into it. Now, my discussion here is not about the students, it's more about the teacher. How the teacher should change himself in the new norm, as the people say, that we are living in. Although the pandemic has little relaxed and we are feeling better, but still the problems are going on. As my previous colleague was suggesting, that we possibly may be meeting another type of thing, God forbidding, but still we need to go on with the type of classroom we have tried to use during our online teachings. It has become necessary because of the challenges that 21st century is posing, and the students of the same millennial era are having the things with them which possibly were not with them. So that is what I'm going to talk about. I mean, what kind of changes have already come and how we can, as teachers, we can get benefit while living in an environment which is definitely a digital environment more and more. And the cell phone has changed the situation that everybody carries that tray of information in the hand. It's just one click away. Possibly the learner has not to wait for the teacher to come in the classroom and access the information. He can,
it's
or
17
she can
hours.
just click the website or the Google, and so the information is there. Now, what type of information, how to use that, what expectations can be there, what dangers and risks are there, all these things are involved. So today's classroom needs to change, and that is what I'm going to talk about For this purpose, the title is visible post-corona pedagogical solutions in humanities classroom. So I will be less talking about any classroom which is based on scientific education or technical education. It's more about teaching of literature, because I'm myself a student of literature and teach literature, especially Pakistani fiction in the university and in other kind of activities. So first, have a look at the traditional classroom. What happens in the traditional classroom? That most of the time the teacher is the role player and solely is speaking and trying to talk to the people and telling them that this is the knowledge possesses and that this is the way the student should prepare. It is simply the transfer of information which is taking place in the traditional classroom via the microphone or via the throat of the speaker. Otherwise, no other aids. At the maximum, the aid can be the white board or the blackboard in the in the peripheries or in the rural areas or in less developed areas. And in this whole process, I have no objection, but one objection is still there, that never ever critical thinking develops through this process, which is a necessary outcome of the teaching, especially at the adult level. Learners feel no interest in that. And most of the time, the backbenchers are notorious to be believed that, by the way, I'm sorry if some backbenchers are sitting in my audience, that they get nothing most of the time because they continue playing on their cell phones or they may be playing with their books or making cartoons on their notebooks instead of giving attention to the teacher. And because of the largeness of the classrooms, teacher and the huge number of the students, the teacher may not be able to see what is happening at the end of the class. So what the student thinks that after the classroom I shall go to my notes and to my books and I will mug up and wrote number of things to be put in the examination. So I will pass through and get the examinations. That was the traditional classroom. I have no objection to that. I have no criticism for that. I just, for the sake of comparison, I have added that traditionally classroom used to be like that. But as soon as online teaching was forced upon us, I should say forced because we were not entering into that willingly, the changes were there. Like you can see, the very first thing come in our mind in online education, that there was no direct connectivity between the teacher and the student. I mean, face-to-face interaction of the student and the teacher disappeared. What came in between? It was the internet which came in between. Not only in the shape of media, but also in the shape of number of fascinating tools. Like it was YouTube, for example, short videos prepared by teachers, the kind of pictures one can have from online, all these things were added into it. So the task of the teacher, on the one hand, became very difficult, that he needed to collect these sources beforehand before coming to his online classroom. And on the other hand, it was easier as well, because his message was being conveyed not only by himself, but also by these tools. Like if a very short video is played in the classroom before the start of the lecture, a number of things become easier. Same is the case with some of the concepts, that if we could show some of the pictures to the student relevant to our lesson, that would also warm them up. And so the task was quite easier. But it developed a number of issues as well. For example, ethics became the biggest issue. That who is showing morality, who's not showing morality. In one of my classrooms, I experienced that two students started to chat with each other as lovers. And unfortunately, one of them shared the screen as well. And so during my teaching, this kind of thing also happened. So number of challenges regarding ethics were also there. We could have the control on the students only on virtual basis. And the teacher also had to shift. Large number of teachers complained. I was working last year as principal of the college. And they complained that they have no skill, no knowledge of the internet and of the YouTube and of online teaching. So what should we do? So these problems occurred there. But still, the digital classroom, the online classroom proved very fascinating experience for a large number of teachers, but who were willingly entering into that. They devised ways and means. They used WhatsApp. They put the things online and learned many Google softwares in order to do that. So their task became not only modernized, but also it was a thing which they could very easily convey to their students, and then feedback also came. I should say that being the coordinator of this Division Multan for online education on college side, it was 85 to 90% successful teaching was done, and ultimately, the pandemic was a little bit relaxed and people came back to the classroom. But coming back to the classroom suggests that we should not lose our stamina, our speed, our way of teaching, which we adopted in the online thing, because it has proved more useful. And it is more useful also because of the student of 21st century is very much different. He's very much engaged with media. He's got a number of tools of information. He can access information. So he needs to be taught with the help of these tools. So let's see what these tools possibly can be available to the student. Definitely, first of all, it is YouTube, and in today's world, we not only have long lectures of the professors, but also we have short videos, we have short reels, which from YouTube very easily can be captured, can be given to the class, can be asked to the students also to go for that and see what is happening. Same is the case with pictorial representations, images of almost everything is available. If we are teaching any novel, if we are teaching any poem, we can go forward and find out those images. These images can be given to the students. And same is the case for the research articles. Gone are the days when we needed a journal to bring in the classroom. Now, large number of articles, quality articles, I should say, are available online, and most of them are free also. The teacher can make a selection and bring them in the classroom, and he should also prepare a very colorful, very engaging type of PPT for his lesson that he wants to bring. If he brings these things with respect to the 3-4 ideas, for example, what language he will be using, whether he will be teaching thoroughly in English or he will be making a mixture of the regional or national language, he may be designing his PPT and courses accordingly. Same is the case, what type of literary language he is going to bring his students face, he should decide about that. And the themes which he will be projecting through that, if he includes these things in his tools of the classroom, his teaching task would be quite easier, and the students will also be able to understand it very well. He can also go for the characters which he is going to bring in the classroom, not so physically, but in virtual condition, he can find out certain characters and bring them in the classroom. So these could be some of the tools which the teacher of 21st century humanities classroom can bring very easily. It's not difficult at all, and these are the very tools which can make his task very easy. I myself have practiced lots of time, and even these days I'm practicing, and I've found that the things go into the minds of the student, and they raise the questions about that when they are given to use these freedoms, these tools freely, and they're given the chances also to talk about that and to discuss with the teacher and the fellows as well. So that is why these tools are very much necessary for the 21st century humanities classroom. But one thing very necessary, while we are devising lessons, selecting materials, that is authentic materials, or we are dividing the task of the student, we need to take care of at least two philosophies of teaching that are preached by Mark Brescher and Paulo Freire. Brescher is all the time talking about the identity of the student. He says, whatever you teach, whatever methodology you use, identity formation and maintenance of the student should be taken care of. Because if you don't do that, he won't take interest in the class and try to find his identity or maintain it outside of the classroom. And as a result, effective teaching won't take place and the results will be quite zero. And certain social issues can also develop because of that. So whatever way we adopt, whatever materials we take, we need to engage our student in such a way that his personal identity may be maintained. We need to help. We need to help the student as teachers. Same is the case with Paulo Freire, who says that it is not good at all to put the information into the minds of the students in such a way that they are banks, and we are putting like currency notes, the information into their minds, and then at the time of examination ask them to vomit it out. And as a result, they are simply the banks, and they are bringing no improvement into that. They're not becoming critical thinkers as well. So keeping these two philosophies, there are hundreds of other philosophies which the teachers can care of that, but without any one educational philosophy that what the teacher is going to promote in his classroom, or what way he's going to adopt in order to bring certain level to the student, one should not go further. So at least these two philosophies may be taken care of before the teacher selects the material, selects the methodology to teach the class, or even selects the pages for the passages which he needs to teach in the classroom. For example, I have copied this one paragraph that if the teacher is going to teach this paragraph, there are certain significant points in this paragraph that teacher can find out beforehand, and I've colored them for the help of the people listening and watching now. These colored words, if we think only to save the time, So the very first line says, so what looked like refugee camp. So in this very first line, the word refugee is very much important. It means that the students need to learn about the concept of becoming a refugee. What type of refugee, political or other, and why the person has become a refugee, what are the implications or indicators, or what could be possibly the problems which are associated with that, social, political problems. These are the things which need to be highlighted before the lesson started. These are the concepts that should be put into the mind of the student very quickly before the class starts. And then the second line says, people of many colors and hues. It means when migration takes place, people of color or non-color come together. The people from Europe possibly, people from Asia possibly, or from Africa of different colors, they may be coming across. Now, what happens when these different races people come together? Is there any competition or some new development takes place? So in that way, this is the very thing which has to be taken care of when this paragraph is to be taught. Again, the third line says, a band of brown and range from dark chocolate to a milky tea. So here's a comparison. What type of grouping of the people would look like if people of different colors come together? Very beautifully, the language has been used. So the aspect of literary language may also be taken care of before going towards this paragraph or such passages in the text. Like, what is milky tea? Definitely, which is whitish, more whitish as compared to brown. And how does it become when the black and whiteness of the milk come together? So in that way, the type of illustration of language or literary language may also be in the mind of the teacher when he goes to teach that. And the fourth line says, speaking in a cacophony, there was the language of the word. It means that when different languages combine together, a type of hybrid language could develop that may be existing for some time in the third space, as Bhava would suggest. But how does the language mix up? What is the way to understand each other's language? That also needs to be talked about by the teacher before he teaches paragraph. Then the next fifth line says, everyone was foreign, and so in a sense, no one was. So a migrant, when he comes out of his village, his country, his area, his territory, at that time, he is homeless. And the person, as soon as the person goes outside of the boundary of his country, he becomes a foreigner. And if number of migrants join hands together, they are all foreign, but no one is foreigner because they don't find any land, they don't find any country to do so. And migration puts these issues as well. And in the same way, one can continue with these ideas. I mean to say that before we teach such passages, before we teach such text in the classroom, we need to prepare the students about these concepts. And for this purpose, we can take the help of any sources which are available. I have talked about certain sources in the back slides, and I will tell you more that what things can be done in order to teach such passages. You know, critical reading is very much necessary to be done, but how a student can do unless he knows these things. So first, before approaching the text, before approaching the classroom, one needs to teach the student these concepts possibly, these philosophies possibly will be coming across, and he needs to have a little bit of idea before he reads the text. And then the student can be put to the content of the page, content of the passage. What are the content in that? How many words, what type of Pakistani words, what type of Americanized language, or what local words have been used, or what particular effects have been created. Same thing can be done with the characters, which possibly can be available in the passage, that the teacher can ask the students to look for the characters, what characteristics of the character have been talked about. And then what could be possibly psychological impact of the passage, not only on the reader, but also on the character which are in the text. What social issues have been talked about. And after that, one can also opt to go for the historical context of the writing which is being taught, and what is the importance of that historical context by linking it to the present situation. And if ever some theoretical framework is available, why not to talk about that as well? These all things should be done to develop the critical thinking. Now, I'm sorry. I know very well that all these things cannot be done just in one class. The teacher should be dexterous and clever enough to take a few of these things, attach to his passages, read the first passage himself, tell the students that these things can be possibly here, then give small passages to his students in the classroom that they may similarly discover similar themes and ideas in the given text. Only then he will be able to engage his students. So these things may be done in the classroom while teaching the text. And same, for example, we have read the paragraph last time. This is from Hamid's Exit West. When the passage is to be taught, the teacher can start the activity by putting some warm-up questions. For example, what do you know about migration? What type of migrations are there? What happens when migration takes place? Anybody has any idea what is the difference between individuals migrating or collective groups migration? Then certain causes of migration may be talked about. That is the causes of migration. That is war and displacement. And the new thing that every teacher should bring forward because of the new narratives which are coming across. What is the role of women in the migration? Are they keeping on as silent partners of migrant males, or they are having a different role? It is necessary to teach the text like Exit West, because here women have their own role and they show their own change, whatever is going on. So in that way, how do women behave in that? That should also be brought inside that. And for this purpose, the discussion can take place among the girls, and they can come up with the idea what happens when the girls or the women have to migrate. After that, the content of the passage may be talked about. When all these things have been done, and then another new thing can be added, that after one passage has been taught, one teacher can ask his students that you have studied all that, what do you expect what can be in the next paragraph? So everybody will be telling different expectations, and according to these expectations, next paragraph can be judged whether the expectation is right or it is wrong. Then these same expectation can be discussed on a further level by asking why did the student expect such a thing, and when he or she found the similar expectation available in the next passages, what was the reaction, or what was the feeling. So in this way, the text can be very easily and comfortably taught to the class in a very scientific, very digitalized way. It can be taught to the class. But here, the teacher needs to be very active to see which aspects of the one passage may be taught, because in that way, one passage can take the whole classroom, whole class timing can be taken. So in order to save these time thing, or
it's 11 hours.
So in the digital classroom, short chunks, movie chunks can be brought in order to teach these things. Pictures can be given. News of the day can be also be used, and the concepts about wars, latest things which are happening there, migrancy and anti-migrancy trope may be taught to the student when such a text is being taught, and the change which is coming in the new Orient women, that will be also discussed. The things can be taught with reference to post-colonial theory also. If all teachers definitely cannot do that, but at least the teachers who are teaching fiction, post-colonial fiction or Pakistani or word fiction, they can talk about that. We can also discuss the concepts of new colonialism and the language the author is using, why this type of language there. These things will also be talked about when a text is being taught, when a passage is being taught from such a novel like Exit West. So these things are, I think, classroom can be very engaging. Student can be very engaging. I know that the interest of the student is very little when some novel, some text is being taught, but these are the very tools with the help of which you can at least engage 80 to 90% of the student. And yes, how to finish the whole text when it is of 300 pages, 200 pages. If you just have started like that, then when you see that the student is understanding these concepts, you can allocate the passages to the student. One passage to one student. If you have a student of 40, definitely 40 passages can be done in one classroom. Everyone can come up with one idea. So that would facilitate the task of teaching in the 21st century classroom. Now, when some of the passages have been taught, questions must arise in order to develop the critical thinking. Students should generate the questions. Teachers should ask the questions, and these questions should be answered satisfactorily with the help of the teacher. But mainly the answer should come from the student. They should search online, they should discuss with the teachers, but the question should be answered by them. Teacher may only help them. And after that, why such a question is developing? What is the social kind of impact upon the social society? The relationship of the whole text to the new real world can also be discussed. And in that way, critical thinking can be developed and final note can be given by the teacher in the classroom. So that is the way how, in my opinion, definitely I have my own opinion. Maybe it's not that workable, but this is the way to conduct modern classroom in order to make it effective, how a text should be taught and what the impact of that text can be upon the student. And for the sake of examination also, when number of questions are raised, the answers are found, student will be capable of answering these questions, then definitely everybody is concerned about the higher grades. And then when such a large number of questions have been debated in the classroom, this issue can also be solved. This is the second passage. If I have been physically present with people, I would have done the same thing in a workshop way. So that is why I selected these passages. But now it cannot be done. However, just look at the passage. It also has the similar things which we discussed in the last time. For example, it says the red words: dressed in accordance with the rules on dressed and bearded in accordance with the rules of the beard. Her hair was hidden in accordance with the rule on hair, and that is what it is projecting the theme like that. Why? A stage comes when a male has to live the style of life, wearing dresses, speaking, beards, every way according to a prescribed rule. And same is the case about women as well. That it means that these things develop in a particular society, which is not being governed by a democratic values society or the political parties, which is being forced to come under certain problematic situations. So this type of passages can be further taught. This type of themes can be brought further. In that way, the student would learn a lot when things are done in that way. So, in a conclusion, I would say the whole process of doing the things like that, the student understand the text and the students are involved with the text and the world around them. Critical thinking somehow is developed among them. Identity is maintained in that process. Language skills of the students are also developed because of listening, reading, and speaking in the classroom. They understand a part of the theory and philosophy also. And the classroom no more remains a simple, classical, traditional classroom. It becomes a digitalized classroom, which is the need of the hour. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. I hope that some of the things may be clear and some may be even further confused, which possibly other people may be removing them. So thank you. This was all from me. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zia. Unfortunately, we are running behind a little in terms of time, and we do not have the time for a Q&A session. But I would just like to say that we are incredibly thankful that you were able to join us today and to deliver your excellent presentation. We learned a lot, and we have a record number of almost 90 participants right now who listened to your presentation. So thank you so much for joining us today for our conference.
Well, because of the lack of time, Q&A is not possible. I can also help the students that if they send me their question on WhatsApp, I can answer on that as well if somebody wants to ask the question.
So we will share your contact details with our participants, and that way they can contact you directly. Thank you so much.
So thank you for inviting me, and hope to join you people in next coming sessions as well. And it's my wish that somehow physically I should visit the university and conduct this type of teaching workshop. So thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Now can I go offline?
Yes, sir, you may.
Thank you very much, all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.